That's the first thing Mrs. Caldwell said the day I announced my renovation plans. She was the HOA president, the kind of woman who wore pearls even to mow her lawn, who thought the world ran better when she ran it. I had just inherited my late father's old house, a creaky two-story home at the end of Maplewood Lane. Paint peeling, shutters hanging loose, porch sagging like it was tired of holding itself up. Most people saw it as a burden, but to me, it was a promise. My dad built that house with his own hands when he came home from Vietnam. Every nail, every beam had a story. I wasn't about to let it rot. When I told the HOA about my renovation plans, I expected support. Instead, I got laughter. "Kid," said Dave, the vice president, smirking, "that place is beyond saving. Might as well bulldoze it and build something decent." A few others chuckled. Mrs. Caldwell raised her eyebrows. "And your plans?" She held up my hand-drawn sketches like they were a child's doodles. "These violate at least 6 HOA codes. The roof color, the porch style, the fence height. This isn't suitable for our community." "Our community?" I asked. "My dad built half the fences here." "That was then," she said sharply. "We have standards now." I walked out of that meeting humiliated but not broken. My dad always said, "Don't argue with people who can't see your vision. Show them." So I did. I worked nights after my day job, hammering, sanding, scraping. I learned plumbing from YouTube and electrical wiring from trial and error, sometimes shocking myself literally. I replaced the roof, built a wraparound porch, and painted the house a soft forest green, just like my dad always wanted. Every evening, neighbors slowed their cars to stare. Some waved. Others whispered, "The HOA!" They just kept sending me violation notices. "Unauthorized exterior modification. Unapproved paint color. Fence exceeds height limit." I framed every notice and hung them in my living room like badges of honor. 3 months later, the house stood proud again. It wasn't flashy, just warm, solid, alive. The kind of home that made you want to sit on the porch with a cup of coffee and breathe. But the HOA didn't like that. At the next meeting, Mrs. Caldwell slammed a thick envelope onto the table. "You've left us no choice," she said. "You'll be fined for every violation, until you bring your property into compliance." I looked her in the eye, calm but burning inside. "You all mocked me when I started. But when I'm done, you'll wish you owned this house," she smirked. "We'll see about that." She had no idea how right she was. The weeks after the final inspection were quiet. Too quiet. The HOA thought I'd buckle under fines or pressure. They didn't know me or the stubborn streak my dad passed down like an heirloom. Then the rumors started. "Did you see the Jenkins reaction?" one neighbor whispered as I painted the new porch railing. "They can't believe it." I smiled, but kept my hands moving. My house wasn't just finished, it was alive. The garden bloomed with wildflowers Dad had planted decades ago, and the porch looked like it belonged in a magazine. Even the kids riding bikes stopped to stare. And then the HOA made their first real mistake. They called me into a meeting under the guise of finalizing compliance. Paperwork. I walked in, expecting another lecture, but something felt off. The room was tense. Dave and Mrs. Caldwell exchanged nervous glances, their usual smirks replaced by forced smiles. "Look," Mrs. Caldwell began, we need to talk about the, landscaping. It's extravagant, and honestly, it's affecting property values." I raised an eyebrow. "You mocked my design, laughed at my renovation, sent violation notices, and now you're worried about property values?" Dave shifted. "Well, Save it," I interrupted. "I know why you're really here." They hesitated. Then Mrs. Caldwell, finally breaking, said, "Fine, we admit it looks amazing, but it's too amazing. The board can't compete." I leaned back in my chair. "So what now? You're going to admit I won?" You might say that," Dave stammered. Then came the betrayal. Or maybe it was an opportunity. The HOA had secretly been struggling. Membership dues weren't enough, and fines were piling up. Their own offices were falling apart. And suddenly their eyes were on my house, not with scorn, but with desperation. "I'm listening," I said carefully. "They asked me to manage their properties, all of them. The rental houses they'd neglected for years. They wanted me to handle renovations, leasing, and maintenance. And yes, they would pay me. Generously." It took me a moment to process. The people who ridiculed me, who tried to stop me at every turn, were now asking for help, and I had the power to decide. I looked around at their nervous faces. You mocked me when I started. You tried to control me, find me, humiliate me, but now you're offering to pay me because your mistakes are piling up, and I have the skills you lack. Yes, Mrs. Caldwell whispered. I smiled, not cruelly, but with calm satisfaction. Good, then here's the deal. I'll take the properties, renovate them, and manage them, but there will be rules. You will respect my decisions, and if you interfere, the contract is void. They nodded, defeated. That day, I realized two things. 1, perseverance wins, and 2, karma has a way of paying debts in full. But I didn't stop there. Oh no, this was only the beginning. It started slow. I took over the first property, an old duplex the HOA had ignored for years. Leaky roofs, cracked walls, busted plumbing. I rolled up my sleeves and got to work, just like I did with my dad's house. Dave and Mrs. Caldwell tried to hover, offering suggestions. I let them watch. Every time they complained, I smiled and said, "You mocked me before. Now just observe." By the end of the first month, the duplex was unrecognizable. Fresh paint, manicured lawns, modern interiors, a place anyone would be proud to call home. When the first tenants moved in, they were overjoyed. Word spread fast. Suddenly, our small neighborhood was buzzing with excitement. The HOA members, they were speechless. "I can't believe this," Mrs. Caldwell muttered, walking through the duplex. "It's perfect." "Perfection is earned, not mocked," I said quietly. Within weeks, I had transformed 5 more properties. The HOA's rental income tripled, and their fines and complaints became a thing of the past. They went from mocking me to begging for my advice, following every recommendation I made, but I didn't let the past fade without acknowledgement. At the next HOA meeting, I addressed the room. When I first started renovating my father's house, you all laughed at me. You sent violation notices, mocked my design, and tried to make me quit. Today, those same properties that you ignored are thriving because I refused to give up. And I did it not to prove you wrong, but because I believed in something bigger, in building value, in building community. There were murmurs in the room, but I wasn't finished. I hope this teaches everyone here a lesson. Never underestimate someone who refuses to quit. Persistence, vision, and hard work always speak louder than mockery. And if you're willing to listen, to collaborate and respect effort, even the impossible becomes possible. Mrs. Caldwell, her face red, finally nodded. You've changed things. For the better, I smiled. We all win when we stop tearing each other down. And maybe next time, instead of mocking a dream, you'll help build one. From that day forward, I managed the HOA properties, collected rent, and turned the neighborhood into one of the most desirable in the area. People admired the houses, the gardens, and the sense of pride that radiated from each home. But more importantly, they admired what had grown in me: resilience, patience, and the courage to stand firm. As I sat on the porch of my father's house one evening, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink, I realized something profound. Life doesn't reward mockery, it rewards action. It doesn't punish dreams, it challenges them. And those who dare to dream with integrity, they always win. So here's my advice. When someone laughs at your vision, don't argue. Build it. Prove them wrong, not with words, but with results. And when karma comes knocking, as it inevitably does, be ready to answer. After all, every house has a story. And sometimes it's the house itself that teaches the lesson.